Everybody, welcome to Real Reviews. Man, I hope and pray you guys are doing well. I want to welcome you to Real Reviews. If this is your first time here, what we do is we examine film from a Christian perspective, examining the good, the bad, and the ugly in media and film. So I hope you guys are ready for today. Today's another special episode of One-on-One with SOC on the Real Reviews channel. And we have a special person. But before I introduce this special, most magnificent Real American, let me go ahead and tell you what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about a movie, a couple of films actually, Predator and Prey. But we're going to focus probably primarily on Prey. Basically, Prey is a 2022 American science fiction action horror film based on the Predator franchise. It is the fifth installment and is a prequel to the first four films, being set in the northern Great Plains in North America in 1719. Now, the film is directed by Dan Trachtenberg and written by Patrick Aison. It stars Amber Midthunder, Dakota Beavers, Dane DiLiegro, Michelle Thrush, Stormee Kipp, Julian Black Antelope, and Bennett Taylor. Now, the story revolves around Naru, a skilled Comanche warrior who is striving to prove herself as a hunter. She finds herself having to protect her people from a vicious humanoid alien that hunts humans for sport, as well as from French fur traders who are destroying the buffalo they rely on for survival. So, if you're excited, I'm excited. If you haven't seen the film yet, it is on Hulu, so go check it out. Now, without further ado, let me introduce to you the Real American, Mr. Phil Fox. What's going on, brother?
What are you doing, SOC? Good to see you.
I'm glad.
What are you doing?
All I can do is Oh man, bro, it feels good to be on here with you, man. So before we even get started, man, I want you to introduce yourself to people, where they can find you, plug away. What do you do, and who are you, my friend?
Yeah, so Mr. Phil Fox, Drops of Hope Ministries. Those of you who've seen me before, y'all know me, but y'all know where to find me. But if you haven't, you can find me at Mr. Phil Fox on all your socials. So that's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Also, Drops of Hope Ministries is the ministry that I run. Some of the stuff that SOC was hinting at is, not our primary focus, but we're able to do some apologetics from the perspective of the Native Americans' perspective. So we bring a little bit unique twist to the whole apologetics, defense of the faith, looking at Christianity as a whole, and so we get to sort of show our angle, and it just helps broaden the scope, if you will, when we talk about these things, and we bring these truths of Christ to the forefront. So yeah, Mr. Phil Fox, Drops of Hope Ministries, come check us out. We've been on sort of a hiatus, and I've had to sort of pull back a little bit from the YouTube ministry, but we are still on and around, so don't be afraid to reach out or any of that kind of stuff too. If you have questions or concerns, or anything that comes up or might be relevant questions or any of that kind of stuff, I'm still around, but just not as present on the YouTube streets. So anyway, that's me, and I appreciate you, SOC, dear friend, and a great example of Christ likeness and what it is to live out this Christian life. So I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you more than just a ministry partner, but as a friend, and And yeah, cry if you want to. It's your party.
Dope intro. Thank you, sir, for the kind words. Let's say what's up to some of the people in the chat, man. Mr. Nate 2D2, what's going on?
Nate
First,
2D2.
Alejandro Salgado.
Salgado, my man.
Michelle Turner. Miss Shenanigans.
That's a good name.
Yeah, Miss Shenanigans. 816 apology assault. Does fourth even count? No.
Yeah.
If you're not first, second, or third, you should just leave.
Yeah.
Don't even.
Four is bigger than 3, which is bigger than 2, which is.
Nate 2D2. Look at him. Okay, man, you got to show off your little predator. Okay. Yeah, that's orange juice in there. I'm just Nate says SOC is always giving orders. I'm beginning to think SOC is a question, servant of commander, and it's becoming increasingly clear what the answer is. I don't give orders, man. And of course, he says little farts in the market. Shout out to Mr. Green. What's going on, bro?
Yeah,
thank you for being here. Fifth.
Shout out to the Dave Chappelle reference there,
Fourth,
Mr. Green.
Fifth.
Fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth.
Shout out to your BK apologist. What's going on, bro?
What's up, bro?
Let me see. I'm not gonna put that one up, Nate. You were just ridiculous. So, Phil Fox, you got to say it at least one time, bro.
Get to the chopper.
There you go. And of course, make sure you subscribe. Just become a Patreon member. And of course, subscribe to Mr. Phil Fox. Okay, dude. All right. We got to talk about it, man.
Gotta.
Why do you like Predator? What about it attracts you to this film and franchise?
Well, first of all, I mean, I was always like a space kid, right? I was always kind of, sort of had my eyes into the heavens, if you will, and sort of had like this interest about whether it be like God or other world life forms or any of this stuff, and and like one of my favorite subjects in school was science, and in particular astronomy, and so I sort of had like a mild obsession with the stars, and so that was later on. But I mean, of course, Predator was like in the late 80s, and it was I don't know. It was just the how cool the beast looked, how cool the Predator looked, and how massive he was, and athletic, and just the whole lure of the Predator. And so and actually my favorite movies out of all the Predators growing up was Predator 2, because of course the introduction, and then of course the epic fight scene with Arnold, but it was just that little extra tidbits of information that they were getting, with Peter Keyes, and Danny Glover was just basically out for revenge, Lieutenant Harrigan and his department and stuff, but Peter Keyes, the scientist, and then later on his son made an appearance in the Predator movie, and so, but yeah, it was like just that just that extra bit of information, the fact that they could find scent molecules, and just the whole science behind it. So there was a lot of science, and a lot of the just the whole lure of like I said, the Predator. And then as I got older, finding out the whole the whole Yautja species, that's the correct term, or the quote unquote scientific term for them. They're called the Yautja. They come from a planet called Yautja Prime that is primarily, it has several suns, so it's super hot, and it's it's kind of like a it's really a reptilian type planet. And so of course with the skin of the Predator and all these types of things, how just their body makeup and how they are, and so and just the disclaimer, like, people, we're not crazy. Like, I'm not saying this as if these things are real.
He believes in the Predator. I'm just saying,
Yes,
he worships. I mean, if we went by what is around him, I mean, we have to say this brother worships Predator. You know, I
This
just
thing
noticed
here.
the cool little emblem on your hat was even Predator. I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, how deep do you go with the Predator, man?
Yeah, man. So, but yeah, it was just, it was a lot of the lore, and shout out to Ben Handelman. Him and I have been going like back and forth, and he challenged me to read a couple things, and I actually got beyond even just the like the comics and the movie realm. I'm actually reading Predator novels now.
Oh wow, dude, you're
And so
deep.
yeah, so there's but but in that, there was always this sense, or this idea, and you can sense it in just how they portrayed the Predator character,
Hmm.
that there was a sense of tribalism,
Hmm.
right? And there was a lot of that in Predator 2. And also there was a large sense of like honor. There was a code.
Hmm.
You could see, even in the first Predator, Arnold figured it out pretty quick. He's not going to kill you because you're not armed.
Hmm.
And he no sport. So, and so there's like sort of like a code of conduct that they have.
Hmm.
And it's kind of crazy because they have this sense of morality, if you will,
Hmm.
but yet they go and butcher these people just for fun, or these, not necessarily just people, but all of these different types of species of foreign aliens to them.
Hmm.
And they go throughout the entire universe and prove themselves. And so, but yeah, so there was a deep sense of parallelism, I guess, that drew me towards the characters and how they sort of operated, and how they, and later on I would find out that, they were actually clan people. They had different clans. There's various clans throughout the Predator universe, and they all sort of have different styles and tactics, and all these things. And there's a rite of passage, which are all a lot very similar to how Native Americans were back in the old time. And so a lot of these things were really parallel. And it was the deeper I dove into it, the cooler it got, because it was just, there was all of these parallels that I could see and I could feel. And I'm like, I identify with that. I can see that. Oh, I could rock with that. You know what I mean? But but again, he's a bloodthirsty killer. But
Yeah, he's like all that wonderful stuff, but then he murders people.
yeah, but he murders innocents.
Oh my goodness, dude. Okay, so I gotta make a confession, Phil Fox.
Yes.
I watched Predator 1. I've seen all the Predator films, but
Mhm.
I rewatched the first one, and I've recently seen Prey. And there was
Yeah.
one line that automatically made me think about you, and I'm like, I wonder if he laughed at this part. And it's a line that Jesse the Body Ventura says in the helicopter. Okay, let's see. You probably know. So everybody's in the chopper, right? And it's cool because it kind of builds this camaraderie early on in the film when they're playing the music and everything, and you're getting to get a sense of everybody's personality. And Jesse the Body Ventura keeps on offering everybody this tobacco, and nobody's yeah, and nobody's taking it, right? Your boy, the Native American on there, Billy, he just looks at him and just he just
Right.
no words, no words. Here, automatically he's the cool one because he's just like, I'm not even going to entertain your
Right.
foolishness. But then he says, "Come on, man, this will make you just like me, a sexual tyrannosaurus."
Yeah.
I was like, I wonder if Phil Fox, because I laughed so hard because I'm like, I just thought about, I don't know why I thought about you, dude, but it was hilarious, man.
But my favorite was the rebuttal.
Well,
My favorite part of that scene was the rebuttal. The guy says, "Slap this on your sore beep, Blaine." Tyrannosaurus.
The dude, it was funny. It was a lot of funny jokes on there, man. Finally, do you remember? I can't remember the joke, but do you remember the joke when Billy finally laughed out loud
Oh yeah, it's too appropriate for SOC real reviews on SOC.
I was just making
But
sure you remembered it because I was
yeah,
like, oh my goodness, this dude.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, so yeah, I mean that it's awesome that I almost skipped over Billy. I mean, Billy for me was like, yeah, that's us. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean, and it's sort of stereotypical like native guy. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But it was pretty cool though to actually read. There was a novelization version of the movie,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pretty rare. It's not. I mean, a lot of people don't know about it, and a lot of people haven't really read it into it. But there was I guess in the I haven't read it, but I've listened to a lot of guys and a lot of podcasts, and I've verified it through cross referencing. But Billy sort of had some in the novelization and in some of the early scripts, which they cut.
Mm-hmm.
Billy had almost like a telepathic type power,
Mm-hmm.
and so even though he'd sensed that the predator was already there, uh, you know, it was even more so in the novelization and in the earlier scripts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, and then of course, people were trying to make the the parallel to Billy's character and the Midthunder character,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and so her and but again, they're totally different tribes. He was supposed to be Sioux, and she's Comanche, and all that
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff. So anyway, but yeah, the fact that we had representation was kind of the kicker.
Right.
It was this cool character and all this stuff, but the Billy, the Native American guy, and it just sort of sucks. I wish we could have seen the battle,
Yeah.
but there actually is a small battle scene in there in the novelization.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's so small, it's not even worth, like, basically he just one guy does this and one guy parries, and then it's like it's battle over.
Oh wow.
So it's not anything like really to write home about, but still it's still pretty cool to have that kind of representation, especially when all you're seeing is guys doing type stuff in
Mm-hmm.
movies, but it's like, oh, and a native guy that is fighting in this war, or he's fighting this this alien monster.
Yeah, and he was a dope. I wish he would have did a lot more. You know, what I mean, because he
Oh,
did.
dude.
I mean, he was awesome at tracking and all that, and it was really cool. So I did look him up a little bit, just like you said. He is expanded on in the novels. It says the information I got here was from a tribe called the Geek, native roots of the predator mythology. I'll probably try to drop the link in there, but it says the Predator novelizations expand Billy's background and alludes that his Lakota ancestors had experienced the Predator in pre-colonial America, which I thought
Right.
was pretty cool. Let's see. Okay, so tell me. Okay, so now let's transition a little. We're gonna be jumping back and forth between Predator and Prey, but okay. So tell me what you liked, because number one, when I saw this film Prey, I was
Hmm.
in love from the beginning. I was like, I love the way they went to the Native Americans. I love that buildup of that storyline and actually establishing some respectable characters on film. I was like, oh, this is
Right.
dope. How did you
Right.
feel when you watched the film and the representation that was given in the Prey film?
Yeah, I mean, of course, being uh you know part of the whole Predator picture, of course there was some continuity issues,
Mm,
because I'll just address them up front, because some folks were upset because in AVP, if you watched the whole, all of the movies,
mm,
AVP shows where the predators came and helped the older civilizations build pyramids and those types of things. So
and for the audience, really quickly, AVP is Alien versus Predator.
yeah,
Yeah,
Alien
yeah.
versus Predator, the
Mm,
the first one. And so it sort of stepped on the timeline a little bit, because the the pre-Columbian timeline was already sort of established.
mm,
And so they, whether they didn't care, or sometimes directors, they just they don't know enough about the comic book realm and all this kind of stuff. So
mm,
that's just the problem with crossing back and forth. So Predator fans, true Predator fans, don't really see the AVP movies as canon. Um, but yeah, so I'll just put that up front, you know. So continuity issues aside, it was I mean it was awesome to see, you know, the mountains and the plains and the backdrop of, you know, like, I can't believe I'm about to watch a Predator movie and I'm seeing all these Indians, all these natives, you know. And so it's like, man, I just uh visually, you know, for the type of budget that it had, I mean, it wasn't an insanely expensive movie, but the visual aesthetics and everything, like, and I love the fact that it wasn't all just shot in the dark, you know,
Right.
because when you have lower budgets and stuff, it's, you know, it, for some reason, it, you know, they just happen in the dark and stuff. And but this movie seemed, you know, the graphics were amazing. They're, you know, a little less CGI would have been good.
Right.
But but yeah, I mean, it was just, you know, the story, you know, the young lady, you know, and just the culture in general. And, you know, of course, you know, I had to remind myself, like, this isn't a historical piece.
Right.
You know, like, I was like,
That's not what
we didn't
happened.
yeah, well, we didn't wear face paint in our, you know, when we were sitting in our villages, you know, like, that was
Right.
stuff that we wore, you know. So I had to let some of those, you know, historical inaccuracies sort of slide, and I just had to remind myself and just enjoy the character development, and enjoy the what this had to offer as far as a, you know, a Predator movie.
Yeah, man, because like for me, when I was watching it, bro, I was totally taken back by it. I thought it was a dope representation. Of course, I don't know all the details like you know what I mean? So I'm looking at it as just a fresh-eyed, oh, everything is so cool. You know what I mean? Kind of look.
Right.
And I did notice, like you said, it wasn't shot in the dark. To me, I think it's a testament to the technology in film
Yeah.
being so much better, and things are becoming less expensive to film, as you know, back in the day was a lot more,
Yeah.
because you know everything, the technology is kicking up. And one of the things I loved about that film, Prey, was not necessarily the action was dope, everything was cool, but the discussions that were had between what I believe was her mom and her
Right.
brother. Those
Right.
discussions about her, you know, basically staying in the kitchen, you know, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But just,
Oh, that old
oh, they
kitchen
go to the
doctrine.
kitchen doctrine, right? Kitchen doctrine all the way back then, right?
All the way back.
No, but like her struggling, and you know, kind of like she wanted to go out and she wanted to hunt. She was very
Mhm.
capable. Nobody respected her. Didn't think that she could do it. Which kind of leads me to one of the dopest lines in the film. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Let me get it.
Come on.
All
Do
right.
it.
You
Do it.
don't start doing the Arnold thing, because I'm not even gonna be able to focus, dude. SOC.
Come on, SOC.
All right. She says, "You think that I'm not a hunter like you, that I'm not a threat. That's what makes me dangerous."
Mm.
So, you know, of course, we're going to be tying in some Christ-like parallels and
Oh,
gospel.
yeah.
We're going to be tying it in throughout the film. But tell me a little bit about what you thought about her interactions with her mother. Is it true to Native American tradition, and her brother? Like, what did you think about that?
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. So, you know, one of the things too is that, you know, we have to be careful. You know, and here we go with some apologetics,
There
right?
you go. Go for it, bro.
We need to be careful about how we read in our modern context into ancient cultures,
Mm-hmm.
um, because Native Americans in our societies wouldn't view it as being oppressive towards women,
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, for them not to be able to hunt or to be able to. Uh, Most tribes were very complementarian when it came to their roles and how things were structured within the tribe.
Mm-hmm.
But even with that said, most tribes, especially plains tribes, were matriarchal.
Mm.
And so the home, so like, I'll speak because I know the most detail, my tribe, the Hiratsas, uh, we were we were smack dab in the middle of two of the major Sioux territories.
Okay.
And so my tribe sort of had this little sliver that would be in modern South and North Dakota. And so the great Sioux nations had different bands of Sioux. Uh, they had different bands of the Oyate. They was what they call themselves. Um, but the what we would do is we essentially had two different camps. And so we had a winter camp and a summer camp. So the winter camp was sort of down below the bluffs, and it was, away from the harsh winds and stuff of the Dakotas. And then we had a summer camp that was up, and then it was in like the opening in the floodplains where we could grow crops and stuff. So um but for us, we were a matriarchal society. So the women, the lodge, the home was seen as the woman's lodge. A lot of the decisions and things were made by the women, but there was chief councils that were led by men. But again, like it wasn't just a simple like you're a woman, so sit down.
Mm-hmm.
But there were different roles, and it was very simplistic, the style of living, and each member, or each individual family was a member of a different type of clan, and the clans served themselves in the society. So it was more than just this idea of, women can't do this and men can do this.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really more of a complementarian type of society, where there were certain roles that men would fill, there were certain roles that women would fill, and it was even viewed as inappropriate for men to even speak down to a different dialect. There was different dialects between men and women.
Mm.
And so it was seen. And sometimes, now in our modern language, our modern understanding of even my language, sometimes there were words like where us young men would be talking, and an elder woman would walk by, and she'd be saying, "Why are you guys speaking women's words?"
Mm.
And sort of scolding us, and we'd be like, "Oh, sorry, we didn't realize it, just because that's just how the language was, and
Right.
that's how it was." So so it's really just not even a matter of, like, oh, well, she was oppressed, so she couldn't be a warrior.
Right.
Um, because her mom was even trying to tell her, like, look, there are certain things that you are better at
Mm-hmm.
because of your skill set, that, that you can serve better and be in a better position in a different area,
Mm-hmm.
than having to stick with just this, this wanting to be something that maybe you don't have the exact skill set to do. So, and one of the biggest examples is even with my daughters, like they struggle with the fact that uh that that when the men are singing at the powwow,
Mm-hmm.
the the people who sit around the drum are men.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because it's not a jab at them saying like you can't sit at the drum.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually a thing of honor that you're not allowed to sit at the drum.
Mm.
But it's something that in our modern thinking, it's viewed as, oh, well, I can't do it. It looks fun, and it is fun, yes, but it's because the women are viewed as protectors of the drum, and the drum represents the drum itself represents the earth. The
Mm-hmm.
men that are sitting around pounding on the drum and singing represent the people, and the women that are they usually stand around the drum, and they'll sing with the drum,
Mm-hmm.
but they'll stand behind the drum and they'll sing along in melody. But the representation that they are is the strength and the protection of Mother Earth, and basically like the backbone.
Right.
So if they could see the representation and the beauty of it,
Mm-hmm.
but instead they're reading their modern thinking into, oh, look, well, we just can't do that because we can't do that. But
Right.
no, that's not the purpose of it, is to oppress anybody, or there's just simply these things that are more than meets the eye. And so, so those are some of the things too that looking at her situation. And this is the type of things that we do when we're folks like the Hebrew Israelites, right? We take our modern views and we superimpose them over scripture. But it's not just them. There's a lot of people that do that, even with, just modern day ideologies and thinking. We take these things and we superimpose them over scripture, and we make them a point of contention, or we make them into a point where it's like, oh, well, look, the Bible oppresses women, or the Bible does this, but it's really not. I mean, you look at the position that women were in the biblical times, and the fact that they were even able to be taught in the same with the same type of teaching, the same level as men, was a massive step forward.
Right.
And so, like, there's a lot of these things too. So I mean, that's just one example of just a whole plethora of things. But that specific example, especially because we're talking about a movie like Prey, where this is sort of showcased, and it is a little preachy, you know what I mean? So you got to admit that, you know what I mean? So yeah, so that's sort of my, my take about the whole Naru, I loved your fancy the way you said it, Naru.
Naru. I try to get real, brother. I try to Naru. Yeah. But I'm glad you brought that up, because it's pretty dope when we think about the body of Christ, and we think because a lot of people will say, "Oh, the Bible's oppressive against women," but not realizing how much the Lord actually honors and respects women. Because before Christ, well, when I say before Christ, I'm talking about before Christ came onto the world. I mean, there was real oppression, not only in Israel, but in other nations around them, over women. But when Christ came, and now, like you said, you were talking about how they can learn even in the same place now amongst the men, because think about churches, right? They're gatherings of fellow believers, and the women are there with the men, learning and listening together. If you think about some of the old Jewish temples, there were many separations. The women sat in one place, the men sat in another place. And then, of course, the Gentiles even further out, you know what I mean? And so now, in the body of Christ, we see this unity, right? And we talked a little bit about being diverse in the body of Christ, but being unified in our faith to the one true God, Yahweh, Jesus Christ, so forth and so on. And, in a sense, it's very tribal, right? It has this tribal undertone to the whole thing, and it's this family unit, which is why I love Galatians, right? I was going to say it at least once, but so like Galatians, where the Apostle Paul in chapter 4 kind of breaks down who's truly a part of this family, right? It's not about those who were natural born, but those who place their faith in Christ. That's the true family of God. And what's so cool about that is the fact that you can become a part of the family, whoever you are, from wherever you are. You can become part of this family of Christ. And so, that's one thing that I thought was cool. But, like how in the Bible it talks about the gifts of the Spirit.
Right.
That's exactly what I was thinking about throughout the whole Prey movie, because you realize that all of them had different gifts, right? They had different talents and skills, kind of like what you were talking about earlier. And how do you say, is it Naru or is it Naru?
I don't know. I was just calling her Naru.
Oh, okay. I'm going to listen to you. Naru. Okay.
Yeah. Everything is English sized.
English. Yeah. So Naru, she had the skill of medicine, which was dope, right? She knew, and you saw how that came in handy later.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so we'll talk about how sometimes, even in certain churches, certain gifts are elevated above others when they shouldn't be, right? And so at one time, to some extent in the film, she looked at them going out to war and fighting and hunting as better than her gift to some degree. But her gift was very valuable, because when they found that young man, whose gift did they need? They needed her. Right. Yep. You know what I mean? So when it comes to medicine and natural medicines and things like that, was there anything in the film that was accurate or inaccurate about her use of certain types of medicines?
Yeah. Everything about, when people associate medicine with, Native American culture, it's automatically in the minds of people, mysticized.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, but the way that we talk about medicine, and yes, there are some things that we use in different types of ceremonies and things that are used as, the hokey type of medicine, right?
Right.
But what does medicine mean,
Mm-hmm.
right? Medicine is meant to something that enhances your life,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Or it's meant to help sustain you.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that many native cultures, we see water as what we would call first medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And so water is a medicine. The trees are a medicine. The fire is a medicine. All of these things are medicine because they help us and they enhance our lives, and they help sustain us. So so it's not always this mystical magical type thing, but yeah, there is a lot of like herbs and roots and things that we understood and knew for a long time. Like we had this big, I remember when I was what was I, maybe a freshman or sophomore in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Uh these these all of a sudden these white folks showed up and were like, hey, if you guys get one of those 60-pound bags of potato sacks of echinacea, um, can you we'll sell it to you and we'll give you $100 for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I did all summer. Is I went out, and we were even like fabricating our own. Uh, we called it bitter root.
Okay.
And so this was something that because like my grandma would say, hey, we're running out of bitter root. I need you to go out and grab some bitter root for the winter
Mm-hmm.
because you're gonna get a sore throat.
Right.
And so I'd be like, okay. So I'd go and I'd dig up some bitter root, and I knew what the plant looked like. I can just go out to the back and I knew what it looked like. And I'd pull up, maybe maybe a nice bundle about that thick in my hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would cover it up. And then I'd leave a little bit in to hope, that way, hopefully it grew back.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'd rinse it off, and we'd cut it off, and then she'd put it in the baggie, and well, first she'd make sure it would dry out,
Mm-hmm.
otherwise it would mold. But we already knew how to use that. And we had no idea it was called echinacea. All we knew, it was bitterroot. And then there was a big push, in the late 90s, early 2000s for echinacea. And echinacea was everywhere. And so so we do know how to use a lot of roots and herbs and things. And that's why and I know that there's a big taboo right now with smudging.
Mm-hmm.
But smudging was more than just and I know that people are misusing it in this Western philosophy, but there were some aids, like we still use sage,
Mm-hmm.
and we put it in water and drink it like a tea. There are some antioxidant properties of sage,
Mm-hmm.
and there are some air purifying qualities of sage if you burn it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, not all of it was mystical, magical type stuff.
Right.
And I know people are misrepresenting it and using it as if the smoke itself is doing something for you.
Right.
But the smoke has nothing to do with what's going on. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's the representation and the prayers that you're offering up and those types of things. And that's really how most Native people use it.
Okay.
It's not this mystical magical thing like the smoke enhances your prayers and it takes your prayers anywhere or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that. The smoke literally represents in Native culture.
Right.
Now again, it gets perverted
Mm-hmm.
when you're talking about these folks going around their house and doing this and then putting crystals in water and all that kind of stuff. Like that's all hogwash mysticism.
Right.
But the way that we use it is for those types of things. At least most most traditional natives that are using those types of things. So anyway, so yeah, to your point, there was a lot that had to do with it. Now the orange tutsia, that's not a real plant or herb to my knowledge.
Okay.
But there are some things, like I know that they would use mushrooms to help with pain, to help them hallucinate a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
to sort of ease their minds and stuff like that. And we knew how to pack wounds and all that kind of stuff with sage and different herbs and stuff that would actually help heal. And then we used, other things that are gross nowadays, but we would allow for the if the wound got infected, we'd let the flies lay eggs in the wounds and stuff to let the larvae eat the dead flesh and those types of things. So I mean, so we knew how to use it, even though we didn't necessarily understand or know germ theory per se.
Right.
But we knew and understood. Like there was this case about in the Navajo Nation where there was a lot of people were starting to die and they didn't understand why. And the medicine men, quote unquote, were like, no, it's the mice. The mice are, they're killing, and they didn't know about hantavirus or, any of these viruses that the mice were carrying, but they knew that it was them.
Right.
And so, and so even before the scientific doctors and all this stuff with their modern medicine, they already knew it was the mice. They knew that already.
Right.
And so, and they knew that they couldn't, that you can't store stuff in a certain way,
Right.
because, they were adapted to their surroundings. So there was just, some of that stuff and that representation was pretty accurate.
Yeah, man, thank you. That was a wealth of knowledge. That was pretty dope, bro. Mr. Green said, "Yeah, you just kind of knew what worked." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think a lot of the time, we get lost in the sauce. To say that we get lost in all the details, and not think, wait a minute, maybe they tried this a couple of times and it just worked, and then they figured it out, right?
Right.
And of course, after years and years and hundreds of years, just using these medicines, these natural you're going to pick up some things, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Along the way. And, they were ahead, a whole lot compared to some. Now you sent me some information and I wanted you to I thought this was a pretty cool part. A little bit of the honor and shame culture of the how you say it?
The Yautja.
Yautja. So talk to me a little bit about the honor, and the Yautja is the predator itself.
The predator,
right?
yeah, the predator culture.
All right, so
themselves.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about the whole honor and shame comparison that you were trying to make.
Yeah, so going back to the ancient text. I mean, I don't know, or ancient text to the ancient.
You talking about those little red things that appear on his thumb? Just playing.
Yeah.
That's the ancient text, right?
Yeah, the ancient text.
No, but go ahead, man. Don't let me throw you off.
See them up there?
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, that's the ancient text, brother.
That's the ancient text right there.
No, but go ahead. Don't let me throw you off.
Yeah,
man.
yeah. So, I don't know if any of or who in the audience may have read Misreading Scripture with Western Eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent book, and
that's one I still need to read. I still haven't read it.
Oh yeah, it's an excellent book. But they sort of talk about what we alluded to earlier, with sort of superimposing our own cultural structure onto the ancient culture, right? And so one of the things that we don't realize that we have is we have a good bad society, right? But the thing is that good bad all rests upon you as an individual. So the problem is that in these ancient cultures, in particular, native cultures, but that was the thing this is one of the biggest things that intrigued me, especially when it came to the Yautja society, the predator society, is that they have a deep sense of honor, shame culture. So it's your the honor that you bring is not only the honor for yourself, your honor also represents your clan within the Yautja society. That's the same thing, that there's a family value, and there's an impact that is ingrained in us. So the moment I step out the door, and you can find this in minority cultures too, so like in the African American community, right? They tell you, if you step out that door, remember, you're representing not only yourself, you're representing your community, right? So there's a sense of that to a degree, but even a larger sense. So one of the things that used to happen was my grandmother was not able to go to funerals and stuff, and as she was getting older in age. And so what she would tell me as her eldest grandson, she would say, okay, you need to go down and represent the family. And so if you're there, that means we were all there.
Mm.
And so so it was for me to hold that mantle, and they knew that if Phil was there, then they knew that Garcia and the whole, my whole entire family was being represented. And so if I did anything off color at that funeral
Mm-hmm.
or at that community event, then that shame not only came on me, but it also represented and reflected on those who raised me, those that were influencers
Mm-hmm.
of me. And so this is a community thing, it's a communal thing. So if someone's acting up, how many of us heard, oh well, he just wasn't raised right,
Yep.
you know and so it's not just a reflection on the individual, it's a reflection on those who. And so that's what we're talking about with this honor shame society, is because there's a deeper level. And one of the big shows that's on right now, this murderer or whatever, I can't remember his name. Anyway, it's this big Netflix show that's all the rave right now. And the Jeffrey Dahmer stuff.
Oh yeah, I still
Right.
haven't watched that yet.
Yeah,
So you saw? Did you
I've
watch it?
I've been bits and pieces. It's not really my bag. I'm not really a murder guy.
Unless it's Predator. I got you.
Yeah, unless it's fake
Right,
murder.
right. Exactly. Unless it's fake movie-sized murder, right?
Yeah. So, but I mean, even with him, like he's the villain, he's the evil, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they tried to show some of the humanity. I've seen like bits and pieces where his dad was like, oh well, we tried to raise him right, but maybe it wasn't this, and making excuses for him. But still, like it's how we perceive it in our modern day, is he's the one. And it's often not what's in the background, it's not the influences, it's not all of these things. And again, like again, of course there's going to be bad eggs,
Mm-hmm.
even if you're raised right. But still there's a deeper accountability, right? And that speaks apologetically now, right?
Right.
So we have an accountability as we represent Christ on the human level, but even more so the fact that when we represent Christ on a spiritual level, there's even a deeper accountability, which is the Holy Spirit that is within us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are some times where we forget that, or we miss, or and just like how we just in our own human realm, we tend to forget that we are representing a bigger picture.
Right.
And so yeah, so that's what I meant by the comparison with the honor shame culture and the honor shame society, that is within the Predator universe and within the Native American culture. Because if you think about it, Native American culture is very ancient,
Mm-hmm.
because it wasn't touched by Western philosophy and thinking, and it wasn't filtered through 1,000 years of Greek thought.
Right.
It was a very ancient ideology. All the structures and religious practices and social customs and life ways are all still very ancient, even now to this day. Even though now we've been influenced, by Western philosophy and society, but still, even a lot of our thinking still sort of butts heads with that ideology, and it's more simplistic, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, even just that terminology just shows the superiority of Western thought, because it's viewed as simplistic, whereas actually maybe it's maybe even a greater type of thinking than sitting and thinking about what's going on with your belly button.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
That's a way to put an exclamation point at the end of a sentence, bro. But it's true. And, one of the things I loved about what you were doing in that part of your conversation was I love how you tied it right back to us representing God. That whole honor, shame. And, I love how you began with the whole, just a regular family. When you go somewhere, you represent your family. And
Right.
how you tied it, I thought it was beautiful how you tied it directly to us as Christians. When we go out into the world or when we are even at home, we represent our king, our family, right? And so that was a beautiful, beautiful tie-in. So thank you so much, man. Okay, so let's get a little nerdy about the film now. Okay, dude.
Come on, do it.
Yeah, dude. Okay, so the whole Arnold thing. Okay, so he was cool. You threw me off. I don't know what I was gonna say.
Come on, SOC.
I can't.
Wait, that was another movie. Total Recall.
So oh yeah. What? Oh man, you messed me up with that. Okay. Dang, dude, why you do that? Let me think. Okay, so a couple of the dope scenes in the film when he picked up that bear and ripped that bear in half, bro. That blew me away because I thought he was just gonna kill it. You know what I mean? And it kind of shows you how big these predators are and how strong they are. Because in the first film, okay, he has this technology, he can hunt, he can pick up regular human beings. So you get. It's a little smaller scale in the first film with Arnold in the sense that, okay, he's killing human beings. But when this dude picks up the bear and rips it, I'm like, this dude is strong. Now, because I haven't, they said, come on, SOC, get your mind to the chopper. That's a good one, man. That's a good one. But, in the novels, I don't know, because I never read the novels, so I have to ask you. Do they have that kind of superior strength? Like maybe in any of the novels, any of the comics you read, like what was the biggest physical feat that you could remember right off the back of your head? Because to me, the only physical feat I got is that film.
Right. Well, actually, there was one called Predator Primal.
Okay.
Where actually the predator was defeated by a bear.
Oh, wow.
And so so it was sort of like I don't know if it was a hat tip to that comic. It was a one-off. It was just a single issue.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually but like what we have to remember is so the Yautja when they go out, the predators when they go out, all of these are hunts.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what they're trying to do, so as you look through the progression of the movie, you see his quote unquote prey getting bigger, right? It started with the snake, and then it went on to the wolf because he was assessing what were bigger predators for him,
right.
or bigger prey for him to hunt. And so so in some of the lore around the whole predator universe, this particular predator was maybe a different part of Yautja Prime, according to the directors. So there's some hint of trying to help some of the continuity issues with that. But I think the biggest thing is in Alien versus Predator in the comics, there was a massive swarm, and there was I can't remember his name, but I think his name was Broken Tusk. And he was sort of a dishonored Yautja because he had stolen a kill, or he had taken credit for a kill that was that him and one of his brothers were going in, and his brother looked like was going to be defeated, so he then stepped in for the kill, which is a no-no in the Yautja society.
Right.
So you have to kill it directly or have a direct hand into making the kill. And they were fighting what the Yautja will call the hard meat, or the aliens from the Alien franchise.
Right.
And so So they call us humans. They call us the soft meat. They call them the hard meat. And so, uh, and it's actually a thing of honor because even the soft meat they know are extremely dangerous and very cunning, is how they explain the human beings.
Oh wow.
But so Broken Tusk in the comic was left alone with the remainder of the hard meat that were out there, and he had to fight for his life, and they were going to come back in the next training cycle, and if he was alive then he would be allowed to come back, but he was left with no weapons and left with his own devices, basically essentially just with his breechcloth on. Right. No technology, and he actually survived.
Oh wow.
So that was one massive feat, and then the other was the comic book series. One of the Predators kills an engineer from the Prometheus series, and the engineers are a massive, they're massive ancient race of beings, and actually the engineers supposedly were the ones that created both the alien and the Predator.
Oh wow. Okay.
With this, with this goose. So yeah, they're all three, the Alien, Prometheus, and the Predator franchises are all together.
Yeah.
In one. And actually, I think there was I think Blade Runner is actually part of the universe as well.
Right.
So yeah, wow. Thank you, Ben. Yeah, I got it off of T Public, I believe. So
that's dope. All right, so I gotta ask you, dude. Okay, out of all the Predator's weapons and all his character traits and everything, what is your favorite thing about the Predator? You can include weapons, his traits, like hunting skill. Like, what is your favorite thing about? Like, when you see it, you're like, yeah, you know what I mean?
For me, it's the mask.
Yeah,
the mask is dope. I mean, that's the thing, it's not necessarily the mandibles and stuff. Like, his face without the mask is not really my favorite. I like the Predator. Like, if you notice, like I have this Predator, this little Predator thing here. Actually, I got this from an artist in Ukraine.
Oh, so dope.
Shout out to Ukraine and their artists and what they're going through right now. But yeah, most of the artwork and stuff that I like to post up and like I have is with the Predator with the mask on.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's just cool. The lines are cool. The way that it looks, the vision modes and stuff that it has with it, it's just kind of a cool concept, thinking about being able to see in the different spectrum, light spectrums, and thinking about how, like, I mean, again, like science nerding out, right? Understanding and knowing, like, oh, there's all these different ways of light refracting,
right?
And if you can see in infrared, or if you could see in ultraviolet, and there's all of these plethora of ways you could see, would be pretty dope.
Oh, that's pretty cool, man. Yeah, the helmet's dope. I mean, with I call them the dreads, the long dreads. I think those are dope. I remember a while back, I was looking at motorcycle helmets. I don't own a motorcycle, but I always wanted one. My wife won't let me get one now, but
right.
The motorcycle helmets, they have a Predator helmet, and it looks nice.
Yeah, it's like $400.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's a sweet looking helmet. It was pretty cool. So the helmet, I think, would be the dopest thing. I think for me, I do like that, but I do love the wrist. To me, it's like classic, and that, but the 3 dots, like their laser. That to me, like, once I see those 3 dots, I'm like, oh yeah,
right.
It's
the three dots actually have a meaning.
Oh, cool. Because, tell me. I didn't know.
Yeah, so the 3 dots actually represent
the Trinity. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Real Reviews ties it again. Do it again. There you go. No, but go ahead.
But yeah, so when they're hunting and they're unblooded, they hunt in 3s.
Okay.
And so the 3 dots represent the brotherhood between the 3, because they essentially the 3 that hunt together that's like the closest you're going to have is like comrades, right? And so the 3 dots represent the 3 unblooded, and then once they come to blooded, yeah, yeah, shout out to your wife.
Whatever, Revelator.
Yeah,
Don't take her side, man. But go ahead. I'm sorry, Phil Fox.
but yeah, so that's pretty much what the 3 dots mean, and why they use threes is because they hunt in threes, and then they essentially keep that 3 going until they become full, not even elders, but blooded predators. And then you get to some of they call them ancients, and the ancients are the ones who can essentially run a clan. And so then they can start to build up their own sort of style, tactics, and these types of things. So yeah, it's pretty, yeah. Raising the bar for these.
Oh yeah, man. This has been a dope conversation, and Chris's was dope too. If you guys haven't seen it, man, go watch the discussion I had with Chris about Gattaca. He could have probably gone for another 2-3 hours, man, because he had so much dope info about the film, man. It was a good film. Have you seen Gattaca, Phil?
I didn't. No.
Oh, dude, you got to watch it, man.
I gotta check it out for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get serious now for real reviews.
Right. Real reviews, serious now.
Okay, hold on. One more joke though. BK Apologist says the Predators are Bloods, cuz. Yeah, bro, they are. They're covered in it. I mean,
yeah, for real.
Okay, so you have on here the clans being tribal. We talked a little bit about. I think we probably got into that a whole lot. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, it was just it was pretty cool, just that parallel, of their clans and how it relates to just being tribal. You know what I mean? And so that spoke a lot too, as as I was getting into the Predator lore and all that kind of stuff. How it just getting into the whole universe is that, man, these guys are into a lot of this parallel is into the tribalism and these clans and how our clanship systems work. But but also, I mean, one cool thing is there's one novel that I heard a lot of people after Prey, they were like, oh man, now we can go to any time and have the Predator influence anything.
Oh yeah, the samurai and
so
that would have been dope.
Actually, well, there's a story in the novel, If It Bleeds.
Okay.
And so there's the book If It Bleeds it's several short stories that are all together in one volume. And excuse me,
no problem.
And it's the story is called Three Sparks.
Okay.
And so it's actually talking about a samurai that was dishonored, and so he was actually going out to sort of to do his samurai duties and to end his own life. And he essentially gets into this battle with the Yautja, and there was lore about it. Oh no, he didn't go. He was dishonored, so he was trying to go and find out. There was this trouble with this demon that was in the deep forest. That's what it was. And so he was trying to get his honor back, and they basically, like the higher ups basically viewed it as a suicide mission, so they sent him in. It was impossible for him to do it. And so anyway, this demon that they called Three Sparks, because they would see the 3 dots. And so long story short, he battled it. He ended up defeating it. And but how cunning it was, and they couldn't see it coming. And it was dope how they did it, but they used that, and this samurai became the first ninja.
Oh wow!
And so that's how they. Yeah,
dude,
that's
man.
how. Yeah,
they need to do it. They didn't need to do it. I need to see it.
Yeah, it's such a So it's called. It's in the book If It Bleeds. And actually, that book is on Audible too. So I mean, I'm not trying to, plug too much of the stuff, but I mean, it's a cool story. I mean, just how some of the creativity and stuff of the writing and stuff is pretty good.
You know, it's interesting you say if it bleeds because that was Tabe's when she acknowledged the creature's mortality. She said
Right.
those that same. She said if it bleeds, we can kill
We
it.
can, and that's actually a nod to the Arnold line
Oh,
because
really?
Arnold Schwarzenegger said that in the first movie.
Oh, man, I didn't even catch that. Ah, good.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Fancy Pants. All right.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
There you go. See, that's dope. Okay. Let me see what everybody's saying. Okay, they talking about something else. Okay. So the scripture, I mean, because you were thinking of along the same lines as me, and you sent me the scripture.
Right.
I'm like, okay. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna read it, and you explain the tie. All right, fair?
Do it.
All right. So 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8, it states, "Be sober-minded, be alert. Your adversary, the devil, is prowling around like a roaring lion, looking for anyone he can devour."
Right. And so I mean, like, I was thinking, like the predator, like what is the predator, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's all these parallels with Satan and our adversary, right? And so, like, what we fail to realize, I think, a lot of times as Christians, because we get hyper focused on on living our Christian life, but we forget there's a spiritual realm out there.
Mm-hmm.
And and one of the things, like, in all the novels and the writings and stuff, how they how even like the ancient people, that when the predator shows up, like, they all view it as a demon, right?
Right.
But also, like, what are some of the things that demons or Satan himself have on us,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what we don't realize is, like, one of the parallels is, like, the predator actually survived. They live for thousands of years.
Right.
So they have so much more experience on us. And that's the same thing as Satan himself. And
Right.
that's the thing, is that we don't realize is, like, it, for some reason, sometimes we mysticize Satan and his tactics and stuff. But what we forget is that he's the ultimate, like, psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he knows what makes us tick. He understands how we sin. He understands the things that draw us away, that can pull us away. Not because he's got mental telepathy or he's, like, omnipresent or omniscient. It's just the fact that he has all these thousands of years of experience battling us and drawing us away from God.
Mm-hmm.
And so he understands our vices and the things that make us tick, and the things that tick us off, and the things that frustrate us, and the things that make us worry, and all of those stumbling blocks, right? um so that's one of the things, is that he has superior experience, right? The second thing is that he has superior tactics, right? So just like the predator, the predators, the film Predators,
Mm-hmm.
uh you know the character that Morpheus plays.
He's always going to be Morpheus.
Yeah, he's always going to be
Lawrence
Morpheus.
Fishburne.
Yeah, Lawrence Fishburne.
AKA
But
Morpheus.
yeah, aka Morpheus. So he, like, realized, like, there's seasons that happen, and the predators they come back with different tech, or they come back with a larger build, or they come back with, they adapt.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's the thing, is that, like, what we fail to realize is that we adapt, or that Satan is able to adapt to the things that even we do, right? How we adapt to Satan, and he's always coming up. And again, I know the passage is coming up, but it sort of reminds me of that Ephesians chapter 6 passage,
Mm-hmm.
where it tells us to stand firm from the wiles, or the darts of Satan,
I could read it
right?
for you if you want me to.
Yeah,
So
read.
Ephesians 6:11, put on the full armor of God so that you can stand against the schemes of the devil.
Right. And so, some of those things, let me see, let me get there. Just so I'm not misquoting any of it.
Yeah, because
But I
I
mean,
will cancel you. No, I'm just
yes,
kidding.
I will be canceled. Yeah, because I mean, we're not fighting against flesh and blood, but we're fighting against cosmic powers. So that we'll be able to stand,
Mm-hmm.
um, and having our feet, sandaled with the readiness of the gospel of peace, the shield of faith, uh, which can extinguish the arrows of the evil one. So I mean, like faith, I always think of like, I always think I used to always think of this as like it's amazing that God put um the helmet of salvation, right?
Right.
Um the helmet, this, because salvation is something that we understand both in our hearts and our heads.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's just genius how God used this and through Paul to use this imagery of this warrior
Mm-hmm.
in these things. But but it's absolutely important for us to go through and put on each aspect of these, because Satan has superior tactics to us, and we can't, and for some reason we have the awe or the audacity to think that we can go out and do a full frontal attack on Satan.
Right.
But what does the scripture say? That we are to stand, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean, it didn't say advance. It didn't use imagery of marching forward. It just said stand, right? And so having those things secure and in their proper place is something that we can use in that spiritual battle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we forget a lot about that. And then also, the last thing that sort of that we forget is that Satan has better technology than we do. Just because we have Logos on our computers, on our laptops, just because we have Bibles at our fingertips, like, how many of us are hiding that away? What if everything shut down, and we couldn't access our Logos, or we couldn't access Bibles for some reason? Do you have
Brother,
enough
you
of that
can't
story?
take away our technology, brother. How are we
Right.
supposed to learn?
Right, right. How do we learn
How do
without
we learn
technology?
without technology, brother? Books, imagine that.
Yeah. Weird.
The Apostle Paul didn't have a cell phone and access to every Bible version.
Right.
You know.
King James Version. If it's good enough for Paul, it's good enough for me.
There you go.
But yeah, so I mean, just understanding these things, like the, of Satan, and like the Predator, you know what I mean? Like, these people were outgunned, out technologied, out weaponed, and at times out tacticked. And then, but yet they found a way, and all we have to do is stand.
Mm-hmm.
And we have we have Christ, the ultimate predator killer, right? So that was the suit in Predators, that god awful movie. But again, I loved it just for the entertainment value, you know what I mean? I didn't read too much into it. But that little suit that encased in, uh, all the guns came out and stuff like that,
Oh
like,
my goodness, yeah.
it was such a bad thing. But anyway, we have the ultimate predator killer,
Right.
and and in Christ, and not being able to, we're not outgunned, we're not outmatched, but it's only through him.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we do it on our own, we're going to end up like all the beginning characters of every Predator movie, slaughtered,
Yeah, skinned alive.
skinned alive.
Oh man. One of the things I was thinking about when you were talking about that was the fact that she leaned back onto what she originally knew, right? She leaned back onto her original teachings, the things that she was, and I'm talking about the girl from Prey.
Right.
And she leaned back on her, like, for example, when she reduces the dude's temperature with the medicine,
Mm-hmm.
that was cool, and discovered that the predator couldn't see. And what else? And so she was just learning. She remembered all these struggles she had, and she was able to use it, right? She was able to use her weapons of warfare. In the same way, we can't default to anything if we haven't had that thing in the beginning, right? Like you can't, in that moment of tragedy or hurt and pain, you can't default to the scriptures if you've never read the scriptures.
Right.
Right. If you never had a relationship with God, how are you going to lean on him during the hard times? How are you going to call on his name if you don't know him? And this is why I think it's so important. And I'm sure you agree. It's so important to have a real relationship with Christ in his word so you can know who he is and what he can do, so you don't rely too much on your own strength and tactics, because you are fighting an enemy that's supernatural. Right. I mean, every regular human being going against predators is going to get slaughtered. You know what I mean? But when we rest on the word of God, we keep that armor of God. And I like the fact that you use the analogy of holding that line, because I think of a military when they're and he's like, hold, and the enemy's still coming, hold, and they're still coming. And there's always one little dude who's like, oh, I got to hurry up. And he panics, and we can't be like that. We can't be that individual that panics, because if you panic, right, then you can actually bring harm to those around you. I know we're not talking about this film now, but I think about The Last Samurai. And remember when the samurai were charging with the horses, and he was like, don't shoot yet, because he already knew these individuals weren't skilled enough to hit a far shot. So he's waiting for them to come close. He's like, hold. Yeah. And they got scared. They started shooting everywhere. And so I say that to say is, Christians, put your trust and reliance on Christ, not on your ability and skill, and do what he says, because it's for your own good, right? God is not going to tell you to do something that's for your bad. Even if you may not like the taste of it or the experience, it's eventually going to make you better, your experience and your perseverance, and they all grow together. And your faith will grow the more you start to rely and trust on God more. In those moments where you don't think that God has it right because you have a jacked up mind, but you think, oh, well, I don't know how this is going to work. Well, just trust the Lord. And when you see it work out, then you're like, oh, I can trust him again when things get hard. Because I think about in Corinthians, when it was talking about, I remember what he, I always forget the scriptures. I think it's 2 Corinthians chapter 1 or 1 Corinthians chapter 1. Anyway, I'm going to go with 2 Corinthians chapter 1. You guys could check me. You know what? Let me see if I can find it really quickly, because I just think it tracks. I think it's chapter 1. Is it 8 through 10? Yes. Ha ha ha. Got it. 2 Corinthians chapter 1. I like it when I get it right, because I'd be messing up sometimes. All right. Let me find it. Okay, so 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 8 through 10. And this is, of course, Paul speaking. And he says, "We do not want you to be uninformed, brothers and sisters, about the troubles we experienced in the province of Asia. We were under great pressure, far beyond our ability to endure, so that we despaired of life itself. Indeed, we felt we had received the sentence of death. But this happened that we might not rely on ourselves, but on God who raises the dead. He has delivered us from such a deadly peril, and he will deliver us again. On him we have set our hope that he will continue to deliver us as you help us by your prayers. Then many will give thanks on our behalf for the gracious favor granted us in answer to the prayers of many." So one of the most beautiful things that I can actually expound upon in this scripture that has helped me in my walk with Christ is when he says, he has delivered us. So he's referring to the deliverance he's experienced with the Lord in the past. Then he says, from such a deadly peril, and he will deliver us. So now he's talking about present. So they're presently in harm's way, right? They're at sea, they're wrecked at sea, but he's relying on his past experiences with the Lord and seeing that the Lord was faithful. And then he says, okay, so he will deliver us from this deadly peril. But then he goes to the future and says, and if anything else comes, I know he will deliver us again. So his past experiences informs his present experiences informs his future, in that the Lord is trustworthy. And so when you were talking about that, and I was like, man, this is a beautiful, this is why I thought Predator was so cool, man. Because I was like, there's so many analogies, and I knew you had so much wisdom to share with this, man. And you did, dude. I just felt like I went to like Native American 101, dude. I'm learning, because and that's what I love about all of our brothers and sisters in Christ. They have these different perspectives and life experiences that you can learn and pull from in order to share the gospel. You know what I mean? And so this is why I love sharing you guys with the rest of the world, because it's so dope for people to see this. And I'm pretty sure maybe people haven't gotten this perspective from Predator. You know what I mean? You saw the ties. People probably thought that the first time Native Americans were even mentioned in Predator was Prey. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, hey, finally. They're like, no.
Yeah.
It's in the first movie, and then
Very
in
first
all
one.
the comics. But there was this character I want to talk about real quick before we end the stream. It says in 1991, the comics introduced Enoch Nakia, a Din soldier in the U.S. Army. In the comic Predator Big Game from 1991, it says Enoch faces off and ultimately defeats a predator outside his reservation in the deserts of the Southwest. Like Dutch in the original film, Enoch uses his wits to outsmart the predator in combat, showing that it is not always brute strength and firepower, but planning and strategy that can lead to victory. Were you familiar with that character?
Not particularly yet. I'm actually in the middle of
what? You mean to tell me I
yeah.
mentioned something you didn't know, bro?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's
the
it.
heck? What are you-
I'm professional.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah, you are a professional. Yeah, I've been slowly reading through the comics. I got the
hold on, because I know I messed up a word and it sounded like I had like Tyson. He said SOC's channeling his inner Mike Tyson. Whatever, man. Get off the stream.
Get out of here.
No, go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
No, yeah. So I mean, I was introduced to the comic book universe about a year and a half ago. I was into the Predator movies, but I was just more of a fan of the movies, and I didn't realize how robust the comic realm was.
Right.
And so instead of reading some of the comics, I read the first, Predator 1, the series, and then I think Big Game is like the fourth installment, because there's like Cold War, and then there's another one in between there. Maybe it's the third. So I'm not quite to Big Game yet, but I do know that there's this cool image of a predator holding a skull, and there's this two feathers coming up from a headband and two feathers coming up.
Oh
from
yeah,
the skull. So
I think the comic is like mostly yellow, has this yellowish tint to it. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so I actually took that and black and whited it, and then cut it out, and then put some other stuff behind it, and then I made a Predator T-shirt with it.
Oh, that's
so
dope.
Yeah, so it's all black and white. It's on my my TeePublic page. I don't do much with it. I don't really push it much, because I made some like off the wall stuff.
No, not you, Mr. Phil Fox.
Yeah, I got some stuff for Elder Mike Holloway. Some Elder Mike isms.
Oh yeah,
those are up on my one of his things. Like, hold on. I'm gonna bless you.
That's cool. I'm sure he likes it, man.
Oh yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, so yeah, I don't really push my page too much, because I got a lot of different variety of stuff on there. Some Mickey stuff, some Predator stuff. It's not like holy and sanctified like SOC's page.
Whatever, dude. Whatever, man. You ain't righteous enough, brother.
You ain't righteous.
You ain't righteous enough to be on my level, brother.
Talking about righteous.
Oh man. Dude. Okay. So let's wrap this thing up, man. So first of all, I want to thank you so much, Phil Fox, for even jumping on this stream and talking about your favorite film. I truly enjoyed this conversation. I think I learned a little bit more than I did the last time we talked, because we've talked about stuff like this before, but
yeah, man.
And when it comes to the realm of film, I get nerdy, and then the way you tied this in, it was beautiful. It was a master class on Predator. So I definitely want to thank you so much for that, bro. And God bless you for your wisdom and your knowledge and your perspective. It's really needed in the body of Christ, man. And I truly appreciate that, bro.
I appreciate it.
So Any final words before I do the whole outro thing? What would you like the audience to know? And then, just any final thoughts on the Predator film or Predator that you might want to share before we go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's, like even with all the biggest thing I loved about Prey, just the last one was the what you laughing at?
Ethothe.
Oh, that's what it was. Ethothe. His inner Mike Tyson.
Nate, man. Oh, you nerd face. Okay, go ahead,
man.
Phil Fox. Go with your final thoughts, man.
But yeah, so yeah, I mean, I love the Prey movie because it was a different spin, and for those of us, I mean, it was still rated R, but there wasn't nudity, there wasn't a cussing and all that kind of stuff, which was cool. I mean, you could still make a good gore film and not have to be so over the top with all the all the cussing and whatever.
Right.
So that was a plus for me. But just as as a franchise, it's still cool. You still get to nerd out. I love the genre, the franchise, and how they're tying together. And I'm also excited because the Predator it was bought. It was under Fox, which was bought by Disney, and Disney also owns Marvel.
Right.
So now the Predator franchise has moved from Dark Horse Comics over to Marvel Comics. And so they did a whole so right next week actually is the third installment of the very first series of Predator. So I got one of the variants right here. You could see is the variant cover of Predator 1. And so but yeah, so I mean, I'm excited to see what's coming within the Marvel universe, and how they use the Predator and how they tie the stories in, and I think it's going to have a lot of years of at least in the comic universe, which will then in turn hopefully be able to be used in the cinematic universe, and we might have some different spins, you know what I mean, on it and how they use it. So yeah, I'm excited for the future of the franchise and how it goes. And it's just, it's for me, it's, it's not anything that I try to use for, it's nice to just get a mind break sometimes and just, sort of nerd out in this little universe. It's a nice little escape, to sort of just entertain yourself. And so I know that there's some folks out there that might think, oh, why are you into this ungodly stuff? But it's like, well, I mean, there's pieces that you can take out of it that you can really, sort of just think on.
Right.
There's all different angles and there's different scenarios and different things you can think about.
So you're not saying that you condone murder for sport?
No,
right, okay,
I don't. Not
sure.
one bit. Not one bit.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, there are those out there who are gonna like strain at a gnat, instead of seeing what we're doing in that. We're pointing out the things that are wicked about it, but we're also pointing out the things that you can take. Because I mean, you think about it. Let's say you come across a person who is in the world completely, doesn't know Christ at all, but loves Predator.
Right.
Now you have some ammunition. Like, oh, I know about Predator too. Let's talk about it. And you can actually reach out to those. Because that's what Paul did, right? He talked. It was in Acts 17. He refers to Zeus, and he had to know that story in order to refer to it, right? So he knows the story. He uses it as a linchpin or a connection to the audience, and then twists it for the glory of Christ, right? He's not saying go worship Zeus, right? He's like, hey, that God that you think could do everything, that's really Yahweh.
Or that statue, that unknown God.
Right? Yeah. He uses that. So using this is using the stories of the world and taking them, and twisting them up, and using it to reach an audience that you might not have otherwise had an opportunity to reach.
Amen.
All right,
That's
man.
dope.
Well, I want to thank you for. Now, can I? I'm going to ask this publicly, so you have to say yes. When the next Predator movie comes out, man, you want to come back on and talk about it?
Oh yeah, for sure. even if there's more thoughts, I mean, I'm definitely down to do a part 2, or if there's more to be.
You got to do it at least once, man.
Come on, Ethelthea.
There you go. There you go, man. I want to thank you so much, Mr. Phil Fox. Let me do this outro, and then we'll see everybody next time. So, to everybody on the Real Reviews team, squad, subscriber, liker, and all that good stuff, man, make sure you guys subscribe to Mr. Phil Fox. I forgot to put his link in the description. I'll make sure to do that later on, and I'll put it in the comment section as well. Don't do it. See, he's talking in my soul right now. So, okay, so everybody, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to Real Reviews. Make sure you go ahead and like Mr. Phil Fox's page, subscribe to his channel. And if there are any other apologists or anybody out there that you want me to interview on a one-on-one Real Review, make sure you leave it in the comments section below. So until next time, God bless you guys. Take care, and I will see you on the next review. Peace.